Hi there, everyone. I'm Alan Parsons, and welcome to the first in what we hope will become a series of podcasts from the Art and Science of Sound Recording Camp. And we're going to be talking with all the people that are most closely involved with our online course, our video series, and our book. So I hope you enjoy meeting everybody. We're going to start with Terry Shields, and he's going to introduce himself and tell you a little bit about how he fits into this organization.
Thanks, Alan. My role has pretty much been managing the back-end processes, e-commerce, marketing, all the nuts and bolts that goes behind the scenes. I've been involved with the project since the beginning, and it's really been fantastic to watch it evolve and grow over time.
Well, thanks, Terry. And next up is Ian Bell, who's been extremely helpful to us, particularly in compiling the online course. Tell us how you fit into this this organization.
Yeah, so I joined the team pretty late along the way here. As Alan said, I kind of just came on board to supplement anything I could offer towards the online course. I am coming at it from a bit of a different perspective than the rest of the guys here. Well, for the most part, at least. I started recording with a USB mic in my bedroom, went to a trade school in a recording studio and got more experience through all of that. Now I run a studio of my own and have a fair amount of clients and everything, doing the whole thing. But yeah, my role with ASSR was to sort of offer a newer perspective on things, any information that might have popped up along the way that slipped through the cracks or anything like that. Yep.
All right. Ian Bell, ladies and gentlemen. Next up is Noah Bruskin, who is a big part of my life. He knows more about my studio than anybody in the world, and he's a great engineer, and he's been a huge help with developing the ASSR course in general. Over to you, Noah.
Hey everybody, Noah here. Just been grateful to have the opportunity to join the ASSR team here and just kind of helping modernize it and bring it into the new era and help kind of bridge the gap between the old and the new. Started out with the SM57 and a PreSonus interface, and then went off to MI and learned the ropes there, and I've been lucky enough to work in studios ever since, and really grateful to be a part of the team here.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today. Next up is Dr. Jones, who is our hip hop and rap and EDM contact, who's been tremendously helpful with his enormous knowledge on the subject. Dr. Jones, welcome. Tell us about how you fit into this to the plan.
Hey everyone, how you doing? I'm Dr. Jones. Initially, I was a part of the ASSR team in-house. I was an in-house producer, and since then, I've gone on and I created my own record label and production company, and now I act as auxiliary production for anything that ASSR needs for me at any point.
All right, and last but not least, the boss, the one who's pulled the whole basic organization of ASSR, Art and Science of Sound Recording, together, and my partner in crime and longtime friend, Julian Colbeck. Hi, Jules.
Hey guys, hey Alan. Thank you for that. You're too kind. Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? I mean, just looking back over, for me and Alan, the last 30, 40 years, how recording has changed. And the first lesson module is about a brief history of recording. And I think it's really interesting, people's first experiences of recording. and mine certainly was a reel-to-reel tape machine that I had, where I first saw the 3 letters SOS for sound on sound, so I could actually bounce. There were 4 tracks, and I could kind of continually bounce and bounce and bounce, and kind of try and build up multi-track recordings, but they were pretty awful. And I just actually the other day found a rejection letter from John Peel at the BBC. I sent in a tape that I'd made on this little thing. Yeah, and I'd kept it, and I literally just found it the other day, and a very sweet handwritten letter, amazing, saying, you know, it's really cool, but not quite what we're looking for, but thanks, you know, keep going. And I was at the time 16, 17, and it kind of made me realize the importance of just having a little bit of encouragement when you start off. You know, if someone just says you're not completely crap, then that kind of gives you the confidence to kind of carry on. So that's certainly how I started. Alan, how did you, what was your first kind of recording experience that you conducted yourself, presumably out of a studio?
I think the thing that got me hooked into the technology of recording was my dad had a couple of friends at the BBC, and I went along to a taping of a science and technology program, and there was a main presenter who was on the other side of the glass, and there were various tape operators, gram operators that would bring in signature music, interviews with people that were involved in each program, and this one of the technicians was a lady who very kindly demonstrated to me how you could edit on quarter-inch tape. She literally took, I think it was a racing commentary. She took a racing commentary and just there was I think a cough that she wanted to remove, and she literally showed me how scrubbing the reels across the heads, marking it with a Chinograph pencil, and snipping that piece out, and then literally taping it back together again. I thought, this is so primitive, but so amazing that people did used to edit tapes like that. Literally just cutting with scissors or a razor blade, cutting bits out and sticking them back together again. That convinced me that I at least wanted to go into either radio or a recording studio, and I managed to land a job as part of an apprenticeship that I had with EMI Records, a job in a department called Tape Records, which was at the time manufacturing reel-to-reel albums, including the Beatles and Pink Floyd, on reels about this size, about 5 inches across, in mono. You played one side and then turned the tape over and you played the other side. So that's what got me started, and that department was closely linked to Abbey Road Studios in St John's Wood, London. And by some miracle, I chose exactly the right time to apply for a job there. Got an interview with the manager at the time, and a couple of weeks later, I'd started my training, starting in the tape library at Abbey Road Studios, and then onward onto becoming a tape op assistant engineer, button pusher as they were occasionally called back then, and progressing to engineering, finally into production.
So Alan, when you say you were doing the tape copies and you were selling on these little 5-inch spools, so someone just could buy one of those and kind of re-edit stuff themselves, couldn't they? I mean, did people do that?
I suppose they could. Those tapes ran at a fairly low tape speed. It was 3 3/4 IPS. It was much easier to do edits on 15 IPS, of course.
Right.
One occupation that I used to love, which was heavily influenced by an amazing comedian and disc jockey called Kenny Everett, way back in the 60s. He would take a Beatles song and literally cut the entire substance of the song down to intro, verse, chorus, finish. And I enjoyed duplicating what he was doing there. Very good exercise. If anybody feels like they want to try it in, even if it's in a DAW rather than cutting with scissors and razor blades. But it's a fun exercise. Just cutting down well-known hit songs and just making them as short as possible without you actually hearing the join. It's a fun thing to do.
Raymond, what gear were you using when you first started? What
You know,
kind of vintage was this?
So funny enough, I mean, my musical background, I'm a drummer. My first piece of recording gear, I was recording on a computer, but I didn't have a multi-channel, audio interface. So I took a mixer, a Mackie mixer, took 2 channels out into the sound card of the computer, crappy sound card, and just recorded it all in right there. But I used the mixer, to balance my sound there. And, great recording, actually.
Well, that's great. And Noah, I mean, I think you and Ian, obviously, you started when the equipment was both pretty available to people and also pretty sophisticated. But what did you have kind of at home before you went to MI?
Absolutely, yeah. So right at the beginning, I was mainly a guitar player and had just picked up drums before kind of getting into recording. And my parents bought me a 57, an SM57, and that carried through. I still have it, and I bought a very simple PreSonus interface, and it was like from there, it was like I could record anything with that 57 and get it into the computer and start messing with it and see how you did it, and it was really interesting to kind of look back at that now and say, oh, if I could do it with a 57, like you don't really need tens of thousands of dollars of equipment, really. It's really about the playing and the music. That's hugely important.
What's interesting about the 57, it's not just because it's the cheapest mic out there. It really is a very good mic, and thousands of recordings, thousands of live concert vocal microphones. I mean, these people can't all be wrong. I mean, there's a definite thing to be said in favor of the good old 57, $100 mic. Amazing.
Have you figured out, Alan, what it is? Why is, as you said, $100 mic so darn good? I mean, what is it?
There's something in that design. I mean, a lot of great designs, I suppose. It would be demeaning to say that they happen by accident, but possibly the designer of the 57, who I have no idea who that is, they just stumbled across a design that sounded great. Who knows?
Does it color the sound at all? I mean, is there a 57 sound? I mean, does it give a particular tone quality, do you think, to what it picks up?
I think it is colored, but it's colored in a nice way that people like.
Right.
And as Sylvia Massey will tell you, she's done tests with microphones costing tens of thousands of dollars against the 57, all in a row, one after the other, A being, and guess which mic won? The 57. Amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? And yet there are still so many other mics. Just be interesting. What was everybody's first mic? So Noah, if yours was a 57, Alan, can you remember what the first mic you bought was?
I didn't buy my first mic. My father owned a Ferrograph.
The first one you stole.
My father had bought a Ferrograph 1/4-inch tape recorder, ostensibly to record me singing in my bathtub as a baby, and that microphone was
I've recorded you in the shower, but yeah, right.
It was a Reslo ribbon mic, which was very popular.
You're kidding? That was mine. That was mine. That was my first mic, a Reslo.
What was it?
Wow, I didn't know that.
Did it look like sort of
Yeah.
paddle shape. This was actually
Exactly.
cylindrical.
Yeah, and it had a head which kind of, yeah, yeah.
And I know it
extraordinary.
plugged into a matching
I
transformer.
made the big
before it-
mistake a few years ago of, right. I made the big mistake a few years ago of in front of both my kids saying, "Hey, who wants this vintage Resler?" And they both went, me. Caused a huge fight. Anyway, and I don't know what happened to it, so I don't know who got it. So Raymond, what was your first mic?
Yeah, so my first mic was this used Reslo ribbon mic that I got from, I'm kidding.
You got it.
Right, no. No, actually, funny enough, the first microphone that I've ever recorded anything on was just one of those basic old computer mics that you can get, for gaming or something like that, from way back in the 90s. And it's just so funny, right? Because we're addicted to getting sound. We get like anything that can record. You can try headphones, anything that will get the sound into the computer. But the first microphone that I bought, I'm like, okay, I'm really going to be serious, was SM58. Was that one? That was the one that I got. But the SM57 is great. I think it's a lot better because the patterns, closer. And so it's, more similar to an ear, as someone's talking to you in your ear, something like that. The harmonic distortion that it gives is really natural. So, like Noah was saying, yeah, it's a great mic overall.
Julian, you wanted to
I think it is,
kind
yeah.
of touch on the first section of ASSR, which is the history of recording. What's extraordinary is the entire history of sound recording is really quite young. Thomas Edison started it all with his amazing invention, the phonograph, the cylinder phonograph. And it's extraordinary to think that the entire life of mankind until that whatever year that was, late 1800s, I'm guessing. The whole concept of sound recording just did not exist. People said, music has to be delivered live, has to be performed, and if you want to hear it again, you book that musician or that set of musicians again to play it again. There was no other choice, and I think we've tried in the ASSR series just to show how rapidly since the invention of the phonograph we've progressed, and here we are with unlimited numbers of tracks and digital audio workstations and amazing technology at our disposal to make music.
The first microphone I ever purchased was Audio Technica. I can't remember the model number, but I know I got it from Guitar Center, and it was one of their special purchases. It did me well for quite a while. I did add an SM58 after that, and I still use that mic to this day, along with a few others.
Speaking of Audio Technica, there was a joke going around on the internet soon after the terrorists invaded the Senate building. A caption for a guy holding that lectern that Nancy Pelosi was standing at. The caption said, "2 Audio Technica mics for sale, used, good condition," something like that.
Unreal.
So,
Unreal.
Ian, what was we need your mic, your first mic purchase?
Yeah. So as I said briefly, I mean, very first thing was like a $25 Samsung
Or maybe you bought
USB
that one,
mic. Was working on a USB mic, sounded like absolute crap. But I didn't know up from down at that point. I was using a bootleg copy of Ableton Live to record my friends in my bedroom. So origins, that's how we began. Like a year or so down the line, I think I bought an Audio Technica condenser mic as well. It was a 4041, if I remember right.
All right.
Was a huge step up from the USB mic, but yeah.
Got to start somewhere.
Got to start somewhere. There's a lot of options, but there's, not a lot of good information on how to, choose the right one. So
it never ceases to amaze me how many new microphones seem to come out every year.
Yeah.
And are they? I mean, do they fit into our marketplace? Aren't there already enough microphones out there? I've yet to be impressed with a mic that I say, oh my gosh, this is incredibly better than any other microphone I've ever heard. It just hasn't happened, at least not in my case. Has anybody else had other experiences in that department?
You know, I've recently started using a Peluso 2247. That mic to be excellent mic. It sounds great, right? But then there's like the Slate virtual system that a lot of people are really into, because at that point, right, it's not about the, you know, necessarily the mic and the components, but it's about the technology and being able to switch between different types of microphones, you know, on the fly, right? So it gives you that versatility.
Moving on to the next part of the, as anyone who's already enrolled in the ASSR-Online knows, the first project is finding a reference track. And for those of you who are watching this who are not taking the course yet, you might go, what is a reference track? And a reference track is really just something to have in your kind of virtual back pocket, so that if you're going into a new recording environment or mix environment, you can play a track that you know really well, and that you know how it sounds in many different spaces and places. And it will give you an idea as to the kind of sound of the room and the equipment that you're using, if it, you know, emphasizes the bass, or if it's, you know, particularly bright, or if it has any kind of characteristics that you need to be aware of. If you play a song that you know really well, it'll help you kind of understand that environment. And so that's the first project. And so just thought it'd be fun to kind of find what everybody's, you know, if they have a reference track, what that is, and if they use it. So Alan, why don't, I have no idea what you would say as to which the could be a Beatles track, or it could be one of your own tracks, or what is it? What is there a track that you like and why?
There's one that particularly stands out. I was fortunate enough to go out on tour with Yes back in the mid-90s, and the most recently released song of theirs was Owner of a Lonely Heart. I think it's a magical production by Trevor Horn. It starts with the biggest guitar sound you've ever heard. It sounds like 20 guitars, and then suddenly that breaks into a completely dry rim shot drum sound, and then a vocal with the most huge reverb you've ever heard from John Anderson. I just think it's a magnificent production, magnificent sound, and it makes a very good reference.
I think one of the amazing things about that track is that it sounds so clean and so fresh, and it took years to make, you know, and it wasn't just it sounds like it could have been done, you know, in a morning, because everything just sounds so discreet and so, but if you read about it, it's extraordinary. I mean, I think Trevor Rabin wrote that song several years before Yes recorded it, and he mucked around with it and put an orchestra on it and did this and put samples here and there. And then when Trevor Horn got hold of it for Yes, they spent a huge amount of time, you know, working with Alan White, retuning his entire kit to make him sound nothing like he used to sound. He hated it. There were huge kind of, they redid the lyrics. John Anderson was relatively late into the song in the first place, so most of it was done, and then he came in and then he changed it and wrote new lyrics. And I think what's so interesting about that, and certainly related to the ASSR Online course, is that so many people don't understand how much time it takes to be good, and they just think things are going to happen, immediately, and frankly, they don't. And I think that's a great example, that track, of something which was a real, classic in anybody's kind of estimation. And it took a huge amount of work by a huge amount of people over a huge amount of time to create. And that's kind of why it sounds so good. So, I think people need to be patient with themselves when they're learning recording. If you're kind of coming into it new, don't expect that you're going to suddenly know everything, or just because you've got a juicy preamp, everything's going to sound great. Probably not. You need to find good material, good players, good spaces. So, Terry, what would be your choice?
Yeah, I chose Pink Floyd's Money off Dark Side of the Moon, as it's one of those songs that I've probably heard in the most variety of systems and situations ever. And it's a great track. I also record a lot of blues, and it does work as a good reference track for that with all the stellar guitar sounds.
It was always a frustration to me that the loop, because it's 7 in a bar, there have to be 2 consecutive sounds somewhere in that 7 in a loop that are panned to the same place. And if I had the chance to remix it now, I would painstakingly pan every sound, even though it would not be the same sounds appearing on the same speakers. I would make it alternate throughout the intro, as I planned to do if I'd had the chance to mix it in surround again. I would have made it walk around the room without jumping back to one of the speakers. Those were the days.
That would be relatively easy nowadays, but
piece of cake, yeah, piece of cake.
Yeah,
just stick each sound on a separate track and pan each sound at each moment.
Sign.
And it can be automated. You would only have to do it once.
Right. Well, let's hope somebody says, "Hey, that's a good idea. Let's get Alan to do that." Ian, what's your track and why?
My reference track is a song called Bad Blood by Now. I think that's how you say her name. It's N-A-O, because I'm not 100% sure on that pronunciation. But that was a song, it came out in 2015. It's like a contemporary R&B pop sort of jam, and it was just one of my favorite songs at the time that I started to go to school for recording and really learn about more of the ins and outs of a studio, so it kind of carried through that period of my life, and there's an attachment to it through all of that, because I was using it as a reference track at the time, and it's just a great song.
Any particular kind of instrumentation that you feel really
Yeah, so you'll hear it in a moment, but there's this fairly dry vocal, some very dry hitting percussion, and then a really nasty synth bass that comes in. It's got a lot of variety.
No hidden grids I'm fleeing. I worship you like holy days, lying on my back, seeing clouds and rays, drinking lime and bitter from my lemonade. White horses every time won't do.
Yeah, it's got great range, isn't it?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really.
after
huge
that chorus,
perspective. Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
after
very
that
cool.
chorus, it'll shrink back down to really dry drums for a moment. You can kind of hear the room that you're in with that part. And yeah, just working
Right.
mostly on hip hop and pop music, that sort of provides some of the sounds that I need to really feel out how a room's going to sound. Yeah.
Dr. Jones,
Excellent.
what's yours?
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, so I'm producing a lot of different genres, right? So typically, with that, I'll have different reference tracks. But when I'm sourcing out a room or checking out car stereo, I always go to "Show Me How to Live" by Audio Slave, and that's basically Rage Against the Machine with Chris Cornell singing "Rest in Peace." It's a great song. It's produced by Rick Rubin. So it's basically a bunch of guys in a room doing exactly what they're supposed to do and making it sound awesome. And it's a great use of, it's rock. So it's a great use of, drums, guitar, bass, great vocals. And for me personally, I listen to how the compression comes across on the speakers, because there's a great use of compression on that album.
Great use of stereo.
Yeah, excellent.
I thought the
Excellent.
whole thing was going to be in mono, and then suddenly those guitars come in from the edges. Sounds great. Excellent. Noah.
Yeah, so
good
for
choice.
my track, which I've been using for the last couple of years, I chose Jonathan Wilson's Trafalgar Square. And he just produced Roger Waters' last record, and you'll hear a lot of kind of Pink Floyd in it. And I use this track mainly because it's got great separation and you can hear the space really well. And as well as that, there's this kind of thing that I'm always looking for in my recordings where you get this feel in your chest when you're playing. Like at a live show, the bass, you kind of feel it rather than just hear it. And I think the drums in this track in particular really, really have that. And when I jump into a new room, I just kind of find the spot where I can feel that on this track, and then I know that's kind of around the spot. Maybe turn it down a little or turn it up a little bit because it's mastered and all that, but kind of gives a good sense of space, good sense of stereo, and then a good sense of kind of the chest bump I'm looking for. So we'll take a listen to that.
That's great. That's great. I hadn't heard that before. I'd like to investigate hearing that on the speakers in here. It'd be nice.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that again for sure.
So it just leaves
great
Julie.
choices, guys. Well, thank you, Alan. Well, I've chosen, this is a band, or essentially just a solo guy. His name's Neil Hannon, and he has a band called Divine Comedy. And it's really as much the kind of balance and the arrangement which kind of has drawn me to this track. It's got orchestra, it's got lots of different instruments, and I think he's just kind of knitted everything together really well. And so to me, you can kind of see a lot of different tone colors in one track, and almost anything that this guy has done you could use, because he's really, hate to use the word genius, but I think he really is one of the finer people working today, from all perspectives: songwriting, singing, arrangement, production. So Divine Comedy, Absent Friends.
Absent friends, here's to them, and happy days we thought that they would never end. Here's to absent friends. Little Jean, Seaburg seemed so full of life, but in those eyes such troubled dreams. Poor little Jean. Woodbine Willie.
Yes, great. Nice, nice vocal sound, nice arrangement. Yeah.
It's kind of
Lisa,
John
my
Barry
wife,
type of sound he manages to get.
Lisa, my wife, has a Divine Comedy track as her ringtone. National Express. Time to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much. Terry Shields, Dr. Jones, Ian Bell, Noah Bruskin, and of course my partner in crime on this entire venture, Julian Colbeck. Thank you all so much. Keep logging into the Art and Science of Sound Recording website. We'd love to have you do our online course, which is doing incredibly well. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again another time. Bye for now.